Hey everybody, what's going on? It's been a minute. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about the pros and cons of living in Toronto. When I talk about Toronto, I'm not talking about the greater Toronto area, i.e. like the suburbs around it. I'm talking about living in the actual city itself. Now, I posted a video where I shared with you the apartment that we had recently moved out of, which we miss dearly. It was amazing. I loved living there. I wish I could go back. But that being said, that is just a part of life. I guess for me, I do move around a lot. So I thought, you know what, after having lived in the city for a while, why don't I share my experience with you guys about what I thought were the pros and cons. So before anybody starts getting really pissed off, number one, this film was filmed
in the filming area of the filming place of the filming zone where it will be a film.
But this is being recorded in 2019, so if you are watching this in like 2045 and you're like,
hey, none of this applies.
It's check the date. I don't know where it is anymore. I don't know what happened to YouTube. Are we still even around? I don't know, right? Number two, this is my personal experience. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to disagree with it. You can do whatever you feel like. So just chill out if you don't agree with everything I'm saying and hop on board if you do, okay? So let's talk about just like moving to Toronto. The first thing you need to do is find a house. The difficulty or the cons of finding a house or an apartment or a condo or a townhome is actually finding a place to live. You have your physical requirements in terms of where it might be located, the size, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. you might want. Then you have like a financial budget that you would really like it to meet. And then you get into Toronto and you're like, I'm selling everything I own because rent is so high. Just know that like it's not the easiest thing to come across a place that meets all your requirements, and there's other people who are applying for that unit also, so you're up against like quite a bit of competition. So you've got like your credit score, your employment letter, your reference letter, you know, all these other things that need to come into play and they need to work out. So sometimes it can be really difficult to find a place. I think we looked for the apartment that we were staying at for almost 4 months until we finally found something that kind of fit our bill. The only thing it didn't have that I really wish it did was sunshine. We never got any sun in that apartment at any time of the day. And it sucks. Like, I really like sitting out in the sun or getting some sun into like the living room or whatever. So it can kind of make the place feel a little bit more depressing when you don't get any sunshine. So that was like the con. The pro is once you do find a place, it's like you are never lonely. And that's what I really, really felt. You know, I was like, as soon as we moved into that place, I work from home a lot. I don't go out very often. I don't really drink. I do not party. I'm like a very boring person. I will probably either go out to eat food or go to the gym, and that's it. But when you're living in the city, there's always something happening around you. If you're in the elevator, you're talking to really interesting people. You're hearing such remarkable stories. It's so incredible the people you can meet just by like walking outside your building or your home, going for a walk down the street to a cafe or whatever, and like just starting a conversation with a complete stranger and learning something incredible about somebody that you never met in your life, you know? 1 second. It is getting dark and it's only like 4 p.m. Welcome to Canada. Okay, true story. It's like 4 o'clock and it's getting so dark, so I had to like turn on all the lights and then come back. No, I don't have like studio lights and stuff because like, you know. Once you find a house, then we have the challenge of a motor vehicle. Whether you want to drive a car, a truck, a pickup, a e-bike. I mean, I don't know how you're going to do that in the cold weather, but whatever. The biggest problem is that a lot of apartments and condos and homes do not come with parking spots. It is really hard to find a place that includes a parking spot. There's a hair sticking out of my head. Just let's focus, okay? So that's going to be tough, but some units do have one parking spot included, especially like the condo buildings and stuff that are going up. If not, the con in this is that parking can be up to like $200-ish a month to just park your car. And then you have your insurance on top of that. You've got gas, winter tires, like the list goes on and on. So the pro in that though is that most people who do live in Toronto tend to walk, they tend to use public transit, there are the city bikes. So there are so many options where you don't actually need a vehicle. A lot of people also rely on ride sharing services such as like Lyft and Uber, or if there's any new thing that's come up that I don't know about because I'm just not at par with all the trends in the universe. So these are really, really popular ways to get around. I did use public transit a lot. I didn't have a car because in our building, an additional parking spot, I believe, was like $240 a month. And I was like, I don't even spend that much on Uber and I go everywhere. But then again, I use like Uber Pool and then that other Uber for like super poor people where you like go, like you have to walk somewhere and then the car just kind of like is going and you just have to jump into the car, like, get in! And, you know, and then you have to like open the door and just roll out and the car doesn't stop for you. Yeah, I did that. I think it's called Uber Poor. So that was like a thing, but it did make getting around super easy. I never had to worry about parking, which is really expensive. And Uber is available like all the time, everywhere, constantly. Like, I don't think you ever have to wait more than like 5 minutes for an Uber if you're living in Toronto, and they always have promotions running, so it's kind of cool. You never really pay full price. Sometimes they have like these promotions where you pay like $4 flat to go to like anywhere in Toronto, or you pay $15 flat to go to the airport or whatever. So when you're in a big city, there's a lot more accessibility, and often people do end up living very close to where they work, so they save a lot of money. What was the next thing? Oh, getting a job. So the pros and cons of Toronto in getting a job, I would say, is that there are a lot of jobs available. It's a big city. There's a lot of companies. There are corporate companies, there's designer companies, there's startups, there's cafes, retail, sales, whatever it is you can think of, maybe other than like mining, unless you want to like be a recruiter in mining. You can find a job in Toronto in almost anything. The con in that is it's not the easiest thing to get a job. It's all really about connections. So ultimately, talking to people, interacting with people, networking as much as you can is truly your way in to a good job. You know, a lot of people are also willing to do the struggle where you just kind of get your foot in the door any way possible and then you work your way up. At the end of the day, there are possibilities and there are jobs. Ultimately, it all depends on how much you're willing to work to get yourself into those roles, to get a job, etc., etc. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. Then I spoke about friends or like social life. I really love that in Toronto there's always something going on. In the summer there's a festival, in the fall there's something, in the winter there's something. There's always something going on. Taco festival, or like Italian food festival, or Greek festival, or there's some kind of music festival. A lot of these events are free. Some of them, you know, you have to pay a cost to get in, or you pay the street vendors money for the food or whatever, but it's pretty reasonable. And if you're not driving, it doesn't make a big deal because a lot of these festivals and events are held at fairly accessible locations. So there's more ways to have fun in the city. You know, you can just like go for a bike ride, but in Toronto there's also a lot of parks. You can go for a run. There's a lot of gyms, there's a lot of social clubs. Whatever it is that you're into, you're very likely to find it. The disadvantage of a lot of this is that there's also a lot of people who come in from out of town, out of city, out of suburb, or whatever to attend these events. So it can get really loud and crazy. So if you're not a fan of crowds, it can be, you know, not the best place to be or the most pleasant experience. In terms of the public transit, one thing I forgot to mention is with the subways and the trains, there is constantly some kind of like power outage, or the subway line is closed between like Pape and like, I don't know, St. Clair or something. So people can get very agitated when they have to get to work on time and the subways aren't running. And then when you go out into the main street, it's just full of people who are trying to figure out another way to get to work, whether it's a bus or an Uber or whatever. So that can cause a lot of commotion. These things can happen, but these are also things to be expected in a city the size of Toronto. I never thought I would like the city of Toronto, and I really missed Ottawa, but when I started living there, I really saw the beauty in living in the city. I saw how much color and life it had, how much diversity there is, how much more accepting people are of your differences, whether it's gender, sexuality, interests, anything and everything is a lot more welcome because there's a lot more versatility in the way people view something or they respond to something or the way you would establish relationships with people. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's a big pro about the city, that it really is a place where you can make wonderful friends, and I really did. It's a great place to connect with people who might be struggling at the same level as you. There might be a lot of like groups that can help you out, and there might be a lot of ways to network, to connect with people, to establish long-term friendships, and to even just learn about yourself a little bit more by trying out things that you might not have had access to when you were living somewhere else, you know? It's getting darker and darker. Okay, I'm just looking tanner and tanner, but that's kind of it. Like, I want my videos to be just more of a conversation. So we did home, we did vehicle or home, transportation, work, friends. I don't know what else there is for me to cover about this. In terms of costs and all that sort of stuff, I think that's a whole video on its own. For anyone who's wondering and has not seen my other video where I did my apartment tour, just understand you're looking at least $2,000 in rent for even a small apartment in Toronto, and then just work your way up from there. For anyone who is looking to find an apartment or a condo or whatever in the city, your best bet is either to go to realtor.ca, which you have like an appropriate realtor that helps you figure everything out. You can go through viewit.ca, which is essentially like property managers or bigger companies that own a whole building. So you're not going through an individual owner, you're going through a bigger company. Then there is a website like Kijiji, or some people even go on Facebook and try and rent directly from the owner. And that's actually how we found our last place. And our landlord was incredible. I think we really lucked out. This guy was like a lawyer and just did everything impeccably. We had no complaints when we were living there. So leave your questions, comments, concerns, feedback, potentially not angry remarks down below, and we will chat again very soon. And that's it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, etc., etc. Share, comment, like, subscribe. That always helps us YouTubers out. Until next time, don't forget, think strong always, and we'll talk again very soon. Toodaloo! Toodaloo. Bye!